Well, my name is Victoria Phillips, and
My name is Kamille Duckett.
this is our video discussion assignment for
Uh,
Andrea's lessons, A Small Island. Um, so we're going to be discussing chapter 50 through 59 and touching on some of the themes that we see throughout the novel, as well as, I guess, the connection that it has to
Key points to social issues that might be in today's society. Some still currently don't exist anymore, but some do play a major role in, today's society.
Okay, so chapters 50 through 59, I believe, is a big turning point for how the whole story itself is kind of set up to go. We find out that Hortense's pretty much her overall goal of going to England is pretty much shattered when she learns that she would not be able to teach.
Teach in chapter.
This is on chapter 50, on page 356. 376. I'm sorry. This is when the lady is talking to, Miss Morgan is talking to Hortense, and she says the letters don't matter. You can't teach in this country. You are not qualified to teach here in England, and it doesn't matter that you are a teacher in Jamaica. And I feel like for Hortense, in the previous chapter, we had just learned that she was willing to give up her entire life with Gilbert and kind of move on with what she believes her real reality of living in England should be. And when he was saying, we can move on and make our life better, she brushed it off and was just like, I don't really care about what you have going on, because the life that you have for yourself is not what I envisioned for myself.
And it was also kind of like she even felt broken down because after finding out that she couldn't even become a teacher anymore, you had the white lady that was so dismissive towards her, like she didn't want to even tell her how she could qualify to continue to cheer in England. She was just like, I have something else to do. I have better things to do than to sit here and talk to you. And then Hortense even becomes embarrassed because as she's leaving, still trying to leave with the pride that she does have left, she goes into a whole broom closet on accident and still has to come out from that, still trying to keep her pride up, but it's not until she sees Gilbert that she realizes,
And even like touching on with the whole her walking into the closet, with the broom closet, I feel like that not only hurt her pride more, because it was like they were looking at her like she was beneath them because she was from Jamaica, as if her quality of education wasn't the same because she wasn't from England. And then for her to walk into a broom closet right after that, it kind of, I guess, made them feel like, wow, we really were right in making this decision that she's not really smart enough or qualified enough to really teach here because she can't even tell an exit from a broom closet. That's kind of the way the females in the room played it out. Like, even though they didn't directly laugh in her face, they tried to cover their face and waited for her to leave before they truly laughed. You could tell it was kind of like, wow, she really doesn't deserve to be here.
Yeah. And then even in chapter 51, you can see on page 379 where it's like at first, Gilbert, he was trying to support her in the fact that she was trying to go to school, but she was so dismissive towards him, especially when she went into the school. Then when she came out, she still was like, just looking past him, and he felt deeply hurt for her because even one of his friends who he knew, even one of his friends that he knew, he only went to prep. He's a teacher. One of his friends was a teacher, and he only prepped to be a teacher for about a couple of months. And Hortense, who trained for years, from RAF, he knew him from the war. He only trained a couple of months just to be a teacher, and he was way not even as educated as Hortense. So that was really a key important factor that stood out to me because she after she was like, I'm about to have my teaching job and not even be worried about you. He still felt bad for her even after he found out she couldn't you know, get the job that she always dreamed of in the land that she wished to be.
Yeah, he was kind of coming from the standpoint when she was pretty much after she didn't receive the job, she was really almost ashamed of the entire situation as to how it planned out. And she wasn't even really trying to inform Gilbert of what happened. And she comes home and he's all like excited, like, oh, you know, tell me about what happened with the job. And she's being very standoffish and pushing him away. And he's like, and she questions him. This is on 379 at the top. She also questions him and she's like, why do you ask me all these questions? What business is it of yours? And that's her, I guess, her defense mechanism because she didn't get the job. And she's just like, well, stop talking about it. Stop asking me about it. It doesn't matter. And for Gilbert, I feel like that hurts him because in the same page, he's like, why I bother to say you are my wife, only for her to look on me like this was one pain to regret. And he's pretty much showing it's like, I'm concerned for you and your well-being and what goes on in your life because you are my wife. I married you for more than, I feel like the issue is that when Gilbert and Hortense got married, they were married as more of an agreement than based on actual real feelings. And I believe that Gilbert started to really, I guess, grow feelings for Hortense, but she always looked at it. Yeah, I feel like Hortense always looked at it as a business thing. Like, okay, well, I can give you this money. You can go to England, and then when you're prepared, you can send for me, and I can go to England, and I can teach. And you really won't matter to me because my goals have been achieved, and I'll be living in England and listening to the doorbell.
She looked at it as a right now instead of like a future with him. She didn't look at it as, you know, she wanted to be with him because she loved him or she cared deeply for him. She just wanted to be with him just because she wanted to be in England and she wanted to be a teacher. But now that she doesn't have that,
I feel like her kind of being denied the job. I don't know. I feel like it really, I guess she finally started to realize the true, it humbled her. She started to realize the real hardships and the troubles that African Americans in England were facing every day. And I feel like in Queenie's house, because she didn't have a job and she wasn't going out and she really didn't have any real, I guess, priorities, she didn't know what was really going on, and she didn't understand why African Americans really, not necessarily why they were treated so poorly, because she didn't really see that side of it. It was more so she didn't understand why they were holding themselves so low. And it's like,
why Gilbert felt like the English didn't mean all good. Didn't mean all good. She finally understood that the English really didn't mean all good.
Exactly.
And beyond, you know, Gilbert and Hortense between these 9 chapters, we really come to see, you know, Bernard's and Queenie's relationship too. They both come to a realization in their relationship that even though, you know, both of them have, you know, committed stuff outside of their marriage, Bernard has slept with a woman overseas and Queenie has slept with Michael while she's gone. But in these last few chapters, she comes and, you know, everybody finds out that she is in fact pregnant with who we assume to be Michael's child, but it's obviously, you know, a dark-skinned baby. And it's like she's been hiding this for so long, not for so long, but because, you know, it's 9 months, but she's been hiding it for over the course of 9 months, the fact that she's pregnant, just like Bernard did with hiding the fact that he thought he had syphilis for 2 years. So it's kind of like,
I feel like the relationship between Bernard and Queenie, we started to see, I guess, just how, I guess, we had an idea of what their relationship was and how much she cared for him and how much she loves him. He went off to fight in the war. He's supposed to be this profound man who's supposed to, you know, take care of her. And when he comes back into her life, we start to see, it's like, I guess, before he went off to the war, I feel like Queenie looked to Bernard for strength. It was like, okay, you are my rock, you are the man of the household, you pay the bills, you do this, you do that, and I'm your wife. I'm supposed to be, you know, subservient to you. But it was like, okay, Bernard went off to the war, he's gone for 5 years, and at this point, Queenie has started to find, I mean, not necessarily the ways that her husband would approve of for her to run the home, but she's moved in colored tenants and she's moved in a prostitute, which, I mean, her husband does not agree with by any means, but for her, it was a way to make ends meet. She had to fill the room, she had to keep the place up, and those are the only people who were willing to do it for her.
Yeah, she basically had to fill the space that was empty that he left for so many years. And, even when he was there, and they were trying to work their marriage out, she was never able to get pregnant. So Queenie was never able to get pregnant while they were there. The doctor said that maybe they have to be really kind of in love. Like, she really has to be into the sex for her to really have that bond and be able to produce a baby. When it's like, now, since she's been gone from Bernard so long, she has been able to connect with Michael that long, and now she in fact does have a baby, and she's wanted to have a baby this whole time, but now she has a baby that she can't even keep because now it is a colored child. So it's like, I know that had to hurt for her to want to have kids and to hope to have kids and to be a mother, but only to have to give him away. Like, that's really sad that she couldn't keep her own baby because he was Black, and because she didn't want to deal with the fact that her husband, he doesn't like Black people, Native Americans, Indians, whatever, he calls them cookies, right? Cookies. Like, so not only will she have to deal with the fact that her baby is Black, she'll have to deal with the fact that her husband would never approve of this child. So he would basically consider this a bastard child to him because he doesn't know who the father is. So,
Queenie touches on that when they're having the conversation after they this is after after Hortense and Gilbert have decided to move on to their new home. They've already found their new home, and they're going pretty much coming to get the last of their things to leave. And this is the last chapter, 59 or 58. I'm sorry. It starts on 432. With where Queenie is kind of having a discussion with Bernard and Hortense. No, not Bernard. With Gilbert and Hortense about taking the child, and strangely enough, Bernard is one of the ones that's actually objecting to the situation, and he's saying, we can raise this child, we can do this, and to that, I guess Queenie had already played the situation out over and over in her head, and I guess from her understanding of the situations,
it wasn't gonna work.
Yeah, like on 431 through 432, we see the conversation kind of play out between of the situation with the baby, and Queenie says he's color Bernard, and he's not your son. She's saying you might think you can do it now while he's still a little baby saying nothing, but what about when he grows up, a big strapping colored lad, and people snigger at you in the street and ask you all sorts of awkward questions? Are you going to fight for him? All those neighbors, those proper decent neighbors out in the suburbs, are you going to tell them to mind their own business? Are you going to punch their dads because their kids call him names? Are you going to be proud of him, glad that he's your son? And I feel like that was Queenie's way of trying to, I guess, in a sense, be polite and downplay how severe that situation could alter the child's life, because she already knows that that Bernard isn't accepting of colored people.
Colored people at all. Just like how their whole reason they were about to move out of the neighborhood because Bernard felt like the colored people were taking over the neighborhood. They felt like this is not the England that they wanted. They felt like this is not the place where they wish to be anymore. And just like they were talking about all of those neighbors, like how when Mr. Todd came over and he told Bernard when he first got back that they're taking over the neighborhood. No, he told Queenie that that the colored people are taking over the neighborhood and that she's allowing them to take over the neighborhood too. So,
I don't know. I guess that kind of really.
There was a realization that he began to see that, all of the tasks and obstacles that they'll have to go through if they decide to keep the baby and try to raise him.
Queenie knew that Bernard wasn't strong enough to really. It wasn't just Queenie knowing that he wasn't strong enough to care for a child that was colored. It was also with she wanted the baby to. She said on 432, I just want him to be with people who will understand his own kind, and I'm begging you, but it is not for my sake. Honest to God, it's not for me. I know you can give him a better life than I ever could. And at this point, she is on her knees, like begging Gilbert and Hortense to take the baby, because she's like, I know that the life that I want my child to have, I cannot provide for him because he's colored, and I'm a white woman with a white husband. And to her, she felt it was better to send him with two people who she knew she could trust, that could care for them, that she could still keep an eye on him and still be able to ensure that her son knew really how much she cared for him and loved him, and that it wasn't just that she wanted to give him away, but that she didn't have the choice to keep him due to the time that this all happened in.
And they couldn't take him to a shelter. They couldn't take the child to a shelter either because they didn't allow colored children.
Yeah, so, during this time, if you were colored and sent to an orphanage, they would send you back to America to grow up. And at this time, the feelings between England and America weren't exactly the best either.
So the child wouldn't even be able to have the English way of living, like how Queenie and Bernard did.
Mm-hmm. And
and in the end of the story, Queenie and Gilbert do end up accepting the child and taking him home. This was on page 59, in chapter 59, page 438. She says, Gilbert nearly knocked me from my feet as he rushed towards me, his shirt outside his trousers, buttoned up badly, panting like a dog. I have this trunk in the van, he said, come hurry. He took the baby from me. I adjusted my hat in case it sagged, and the damp air left me looking comical. A curtain at the window moved just a little bit, enough for me to know it was not the breeze, but I paid it no mind. I pulled my back up and straightened my coat against the cold. So this is where she's finally accepting the fact that she is going to take the baby, and they're finally going to be a family. And she has to step her game up now and actually be in this marriage with Gilbert, and not just for a business or a partnership.
But I feel like she is already accepted it. Like, she has seen Gilbert in a new light. Like, even on page 435, this is when Gilbert stands up to Bernard, and he's like, you know what your trouble is, man? Your white skin. You think it makes you better than me. You think it gives you the right to lord it over a black man, but you know what it makes you? You want to know what your white skin makes you, man? It makes you white, and that's all, man. And white, no better and no worse than me, just white. And from this, Queenie says, she was like, I realized that, not Queenie, Hortense, I'm sorry. She said, I realized that Gilbert Joseph, my husband, was a man of class, a man of character, a man of intelligence. And I feel like that was something she always doubted of Gilbert. And now she's starting to see, like, I guess.
Husband.
Yeah, she's actually claiming him as her husband. I feel like that's the first time she's done this. Well, she never really truly claims him as her husband.
A lot of, in this story, it touched on a lot of themes, like, as far as manners, as far as the civilization, how things were, how they lived in were. Also marriage roles, Hortense and Gilbert, the way, their marriage started off as a business, kind of a business arrangement, and Bernard and Queenie, they started off as the same too. So it wasn't like a traditional kind of marriage role. Like, it was, I'm going to marry you because I know I'm going to be able to get this out of it. They also touched a lot on displacement and belonging because for a long period of time, a lot of people in the story felt like they didn't belong in certain places. Like Queenie felt like she didn't belong on the farm with her family. She didn't want to be that older sister anymore. That older sister slash basically mother, like young mother, to take care of her brothers. You know, she felt like she could do more than just that. Hortense, she always knew she wanted to go to England, but she know that she didn't belong. Not didn't belong, but she know that she didn't want to stay
I feel like
in Jamaica.
She wanted to go to England,
Yeah,
but the expectation of England when she arrived didn't meet the reality
that what she thought it was going to be. It wasn't this beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
magnificent place that was just going to come in and accept her with open arms. Like, it was closed arms. And a lot of race and prejudice happened in this book too. Like, you know, going from everything was based on race in this. Like, everything.
Yeah, with touching
through
on
the
race,
relationships.
we see. I feel like one of the biggest issues with, I guess, race and this story is the fact that they enlisted all of the colored soldiers and allowed them to fight in the war, and then afterwards, you're expecting them to go home, and pretty much
they're not going home because they felt like they fought this war,
and they feel like them fighting the war pretty much made them feel as if they deserve to
be a part of this world that they didn't want them to be a part of. Like,
and for Bernard, that was a hard concept for him to follow, because for him, he was like, well, you know, the war is over. Everyone should want to go back home. He was saying England is for the English. England is for the English, and we should send the colors to the West. Okay, here it goes. On 388 at the bottom, he says, England is for the English and the West Indies for these colored people. Everyone was trying to get home after the war to be with kith and kin, except these blasted colored colonials. I have nothing against them in their place, but their place is not here. And yeah, it was like, I don't mind that you fought in the war with me. I don't mind that we've worked together up until this point, but now that we don't have a reason to fight anymore, you don't need to be here. You don't have any sense of belonging, even to the point that he made a joke to Mr. Todd saying that they would only last for one British winter. And he said that they honestly looked comical because of their, I guess, you know, if you think about it, they're from Jamaica, so they have loose fit clothing. And due to the hotter climate of the islands, and he's saying decked in seaside colors, the pair of them, their clothes far too flimsy for our climate, drooping and sagging with the damp. People belonged in hot climates. It would be a kindness to return them to the backward place that they came from. And this only further shows, this is on 389, this only further shows this prejudice between him, and that he still feels that they're beneath him, because it's like you wouldn't necessarily refer to Jamaica as a backward place if you didn't see it as a country inferior to your own. You see them as less than you, less than human. And that's one of his biggest issues, is that, okay, you come home and you see Queenie has opened your house up to people who you see as less than you, and you try to get rid of them, and she takes their side. So it's like, where do I stand in this fight, because my wife doesn't even have my back?
Even meeting Gilbert in his home and still finding out that he was a part of, just like Queenie said, he was a part of the RAF, the RAF group too. And, you know, Bernard still didn't care. He still didn't even shake his hand. When he first met Gilbert, he just closed the door on him, and, you know, still didn't even accept the fact that he most likely went through the same similarities that you went through in the war, staying out long, you know, just working overseas, and he still didn't even accept the fact that, you know, he was basically just like him.
I guess in terms of the theme, like we were talking about manners and civilization, I feel like even in the beginning of the novel, Hortense, is that the first chapter? The second chapter, the first chapter with Hortense, when she kind of talks about when she would go to England and hear the bells ringing. And I felt like she saw a house with a doorbell as a sense of not necessarily money, but of class, a certain standard. It's like every house in England has a bell. Every house in England, everybody has good manners. They're proper. They treat each other well. And
she has a high expectation.
Yeah, it's just like that mother country expectation that everybody here is here to help everyone else. Like we all are willing to reach out and help you move up further in life. And I believe she honestly thought that England would be superior to Jamaica just based on the clothes that she brought with her, how she always dressed herself up as if she had to make people believe she was something that she wasn't in order to blend in England.
None of that even mattered. None of what she wore even mattered. It didn't take from the fact that she's still an African American woman. Like she's still a black person. They only see her as a colored person. They're not going to see her as a well-dressed colored person, as a smart, intelligent colored person. It's just going to be a colored person that shouldn't even be here in England with us, among us, even though we don't even have probably the same type of class. Like, and that's going back to when her first time going to the grocery store, like handling the bread with no hands, digging up the nose. Everybody else was dressed just like how Queenie was dressed,
And I feel like that's also tied into that theme of displacement, because back at home, even she was saying, well, the cloth is, held, well, it's placed differently for you to view it. It's not just drug all around the floor. Like people in Jamaica cared more about their appearances than their stores. Yeah, in their stores than the people in England. And the big excuse was, oh, well, we just went through a war. We're trying to find ourselves. And I mean, I'm understanding of the fact that you are at war, but that doesn't mean that everything in your home country has to falter due to the war. And I feel like that was Queenie's thing. It's like, not Queenie, that was Hortense's thing. It's like, okay, well, I understand you're at war and all these men are fighting, but men are coming home and England is still a mess. What am I supposed to do from here? I can't teach. Nobody is accepting me. They're trying to send me home. Only people here who accept me are the people who look like me, and they have no status or class in this place. So what does it mean to me that they look at me as the same? And I feel like that's when she kind of started to find her sense of belonging. It's still in those same last 9 chapters. It's like even when African American people would come up and speak to Bernard, Hortense would get extremely upset and kind of brush them off and not want to deal with them. But it's like when she when the guy runs into, pretty much when they walk up to them in the tea shop, I believe. This was after Queenie was, crying after she pretty much expressed the fact that she wouldn't be able to work in England. It was almost a sense of when the gentleman talked to her, she actually looked him in his eyes and responded to him and gave him a real response, even though it was just about the weather, which was of nothing important. But you said, is it? This is on 386. I'm sorry. At the This is at the bottom, talking about the man that walks up to Gilbert and Hortense. She was saying that he was old and cold with 2 scars around his head and a brown hat squashed on top of his head. And he asks, "Is it cold today?"
He smiled.
Gilbert says,
with the few teeth he had left. "Yes, ma'am," I said.
And this is pretty much talking about how the guy, she's referring to the guy saying he didn't smell good, his brown skin was dusted gray with dirt, and it was a struggle for him to even tip his hat to Hortense, which would have been another time of those manners and that class and status that she wished for. And he pretty much just says, "Cold day today, miss," to her, and she glances at him, and at first you kind of would think that she wouldn't respond the same way she's treated African Americans the entire time that she's been in England, as if not necessarily that they are beneath her, but that they don't understand their status and role while they're in England. And she responds to him, and it's just very simple, saying, "I have found that it is a very cold country." And the man tipped his head again, and says, "Ah, very cold, miss," he muttered as he moved on, "very cold."
Mhm.
And I feel like this is in a sense of Hortense finding her sense of belonging in England, because she's starting to be okay with the surroundings, and rather than always looking down on everyone, I guess,
or even being upset about the way they talk and articulate themselves.
I feel like she's starting to realize that there are people just like she is, and that they're dealing with the same hardships of being colored in England. And I guess she just didn't really understand all of the hardships that came along with that.
Even there, the only kind of social issues that I found a connection, not only, but some social issues that I found a connection with this story, as far as, some people being in this country that want to get rid of others, is the immigration laws, as far as Trump's, his way, his, I'm trying to look for the word, his way to try to push people out of this country that want to come here for a better life. People, just like how in Andre Levy's story, A Small Island, Hortense and Gilbert, they want to come to England because they think, it's this good place. They figure they can get a better living out of it. They feel like they can really, find part and make a true home out of this place. Just like how Spanish and Latino people, they feel like they can come to America because this is supposed to be the land for free. This is supposed to be a place where nobody will look down upon you. Nobody will, even try to ridicule you or, push you away from certain areas or certain jobs or even certain schools. I felt like that was a big connection with this story because a lot of people feel that, that Latinos and like Spanish people shouldn't even be in this country because they came from somewhere else. And I feel like that's how the English felt about the Indians or people who were from Jamaica. They felt like they shouldn't be here, that they should go back to their own country where they belong.
Another connection still that has to do with like the immigration standpoint is even how with Hortense, who got her full education in Jamaica, she had recommendation letters from her headmaster at the school that she taught at, pretty much proving that not only was she qualified to do her job, but that they were people she had worked with in the field that knew she was capable of doing whatever she said she could. And when she arrived and actually went through doing all the paperwork, they're saying, well, you only technically certified to teach in Jamaica. And I feel like that happens a lot with immigrants, where you would get your work visa and you come over to America or to another country and you want to pick up the same profession that you had in your other country, your mother country, your homeland. And they don't tell you all the stipulations and guides and things that the process of actually becoming a person in your profession in another country. It's just like, oh yes, you can go to America and you can teach. And I feel like that's what Hortense was thinking. I'll just go and teach and everything will be okay and my life will be better and I'll be able to make something of myself based off who I am in Jamaica. And she gets to America and they're like, well, you pretty much have to start all the way over. And if you really think about how many people come to America and are told they have to start completely over in order to achieve the status that they once had in their other country, they tend to go a different route. They might not necessarily do the extra process to become a teacher because they don't have the time or the money or the effort or the energy, and it's so many other things they're thinking about in another country that they don't have time to go back and do 2 to 4 more years of school just to teach and do the same thing they were doing in their home country. And it's stressful, and it's like when you have an idea, it's the same thing of expectation versus reality. You have these expectations in your head of what moving to another country is going to be like and how wonderful your life will be, and as soon as you get here, you meet reality that doesn't match up to anything that you expected it to be. Even leaving England, and not even moving out of Queenie's house, Hortense even said, this is not the England that I expected it to be, with a white woman begging on her knees.
So that kind of rewinds it back again when she first gets there, she sees Gilbert after, waiting for him to send for her. This is not the England that I thought of. It's not what I dreamed of. This is not what I thought it was going to be. Having to even think that she has to start over is pretty crazy. I feel like, another social issue that it touches on is between colleges. Like, a lot of people have to do that too. They come to a new school and it's promising, and they believe that they're going to be able to further their education or finish their education with the credits from another school that they have had or that they worked extremely hard for to get to a school, and for somebody to say that they can accept any of them. You know, a lot of people in their lifetime have to start over, and that's one problem that I always noticed in college, and not just HBCUs. You know, that's in a lot of other colleges too, that, you know, you work so hard to be in a place where it's like it still wasn't enough, because when you get to a new place, they're telling you it's not enough and you have to do something else. So that was another social issue too. But we're coming to,
I guess that wraps up our discussion.
yeah, we're coming to the end of our discussion. I know this was only supposed to be, I know this was only supposed to be like 15 minutes,